Hello, folks. Thank you for inviting me. Um, uh, I am Graham Warwick. I'm the technology editor for Aviation Week, and I've been covering electric aviation, eVTOL, AAM for probably 15 plus years now. So what you're going to get here, I don't have a presentation. What you're going to get is a journalist's view of where we kind of stand with AAM at the moment. It's kind of focused on eVTOL, obviously, because that's kind of where most of the news is at the moment. But I'll take a kind of wider look. So I'll start by saying the AAM industry got a dose of reality in 2024. We saw some good things, some bad things, and the industry is entering 2025 with a lot of work still ahead of it, making progress, but a lot still to do. So in the US, which is where I'm based, we're not expecting to see an eVTOL air taxi type certified in this year, in 2025. It doesn't look likely. 2026 looks more likely, but probably not this year. And depending on how much work the companies like Joby and Archer can do in parallel with type certification, if we don't get type certification until 2026, that means that commercial air taxi services could begin in 2026, but they could also slip into 2027, which some people think is more likely. But certainly we're still at 12, 18 months away from anything commercial happening. There's a lot to do beyond type certification. Pilot training, putting all the training academies in place, finalizing all of the Part 135. So it's still a ways to go. Even when they start those commercial services, they're going to be subsidized initially, even if they're for the wealthy, airport shuttles, etc. They'll still be subsidized to some extent. So even the well-funded industry leaders like Joby and Archer are going to have to raise some more money over the next 2-3 years. So they may already have, somewhere between $1 and $2 billion raised, which is enough to get the aircraft certified and maybe get production started. But to get into service and to scale, you're looking at companies having to raise $2, maybe $3 billion, which is a lot of money. On the other side of the Atlantic, to be frank, Europe almost lost its leading eVTOL developers in 2024, with both Lilium and Volocopter filing for insolvency. And in the UK, Vertical was locked in an ownership battle, to keep going. Now, Lilium did find new funding. Hopefully they will get restarted this year. We're still waiting to see if Volocopter can find a rescuer. And Vertical has been stabilized for now. But the result of that is the eVTOL development in Europe, which really at one point was the leader, has been pushed back a couple of years. We're really not expecting anything before probably 2028 in Europe. It's been quite a difficult year for Europe. And this is despite having a regulator in EASA that leaned forward more than any other to enable this new industry. The bigger problem from Europe, it seems, is just the lack of a robust venture capital ecosystem, which makes it very hard for companies to raise the sheer scale of money that's needed to get these projects into production and into commercial operation. So while we may have to wait till 2026, maybe 2027 in the US, the United Arab Emirates still plans to start air taxi service in 2026. They have agreements in place with both Joby and Archer, and both of those companies they hope to get started before the end of this year, ahead of type certification in the US, which will be a challenge for the local regulator. But the companies are working hard to get the infrastructure in place, the first vertiports, and to get some sort of permit to fly in the UAE, which means they can get started earlier probably than in the US. So AAM has continued to make progress in other regions. South Korea and Japan are continuing to work towards introducing commercial passenger and logistics services. And obviously in the past 12 months, India has emerged as a player in AAM as well. Very different economic situations there. So you're seeing kind of different solutions emerge in India versus some of these other countries. But the standout over the last 12 to 18 months has been China. The industry has exploded over the past year or two, and not just in eVTOLs, but in electric fixed-wing aircraft, uncrewed cargo aircraft, hydrogen electric propulsion, just dozens of startups bouncing up and in this market. And China has seen this mushrooming of AAM startups because it's being encouraged by strong central government support for what they call the low altitude economy, which is kind of AAM on steroids. It's AAM plus drones, plus general aviation, plus helicopters. It's just use of all that low altitude for logistics, passenger transport, just economy, generating economic wealth, basically. And a lot of these companies, startups, they're being enabled by funding from provincial government-owned entities, orders from provincial government-owned operators. So the government is playing a very strong role in China. And these Chinese startups are helped by capital costs that are perhaps a seventh of those in the West, meaning that tens of millions of dollars can get them to a full flying demonstrator in a couple of years. China's regulator, CAAC, has been very proactive. They've type certified the first 2 VTOLs anywhere in the world, EHang and Autoflight, but they're to sort of unique rules. Now China's following the FAA's lead in certifying the larger passenger carrying eVTOLs in the same way as a special class. So we're not seeing any more approvals in China before 2026 at the earlier. And we think that there will be casualties amongst these many Chinese startups, but SMG Consulting, with whom we work a lot, thinks they'll come after they certify, as they compete for market share, rather than what happens in the West, which is where companies run out of money before they get to certification. And, and China's domestic market will be large. They support a lot of EV market makers. They could support a lot of eVTOL makers. And then the question becomes, what happens when they turn their attention to the export market? Will we see a wave of eVTOLs following this wave of Chinese EVs into the Western markets? Aviation is a far tougher market to penetrate, and certification is kind of a protectionist barrier, but they will get into these outside markets eventually. And as I said at the beginning, AAM is much more than an eVTOL, but we're seeing similar patterns of schedule delays, financial distress. We lost Universal Hydrogen in 2024, and its rival ZeroAvia is slipping its first hydrogen electric retrofit to 2027, about a year. Certification is just brutally tough and very hard to accelerate. But I will say, it looks certain that we will see more electric fixed-wing aircraft certified in 2025 for pilot training and the first of the electric cargo aircraft. So the transformation has begun. And obviously, I haven't even touched on the drones and the cargo drones and the delivery drones. Nothing is going as fast as we hoped, and as many still wanted to go, but we're definitely making progress. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Graham. I think we are finished with this part of our session for tonight, right?
Yes, we are going to